The tide of global conflict is rarely turned by a single event, but rather by a series of critical moments that shift momentum, erode power, and ultimately lead to a final, decisive conclusion. For a leader who once seemed unstoppable, the reversal of fortune was a gradual yet relentless process, marked by strategic miscalculations and the growing strength of his adversaries. The first major turning point came not on land, but in the skies. After a long and punishing air campaign, the leader's air force failed to gain superiority over a key rival nation. This failure was significant. It meant the island nation remained a powerful and unsinkable base for future operations, a constant threat that could not be neutralized. It was a strategic defeat that prevented a swift victory and prolonged the conflict, stretching resources and morale thin. Soon after, a far more catastrophic turning point unfolded on the vast, frozen Eastern Front. A massive invasion, intended to be a rapid and overwhelming victory, bogged down in the harsh realities of a brutal winter and fierce resistance. An entire army, one of the best and most experienced, was encircled and eventually forced to surrender at a city that would become legendary. This wasn't just a military loss. It was a psychological blow from which the regime would never truly recover. The myth of invincibility was shattered, and from that moment on, the leader's forces would be on the defensive, pushed back step by step, league by league. As the Eastern Front crumbled, pressure mounted from other directions. A massive amphibious landing, the largest in history, opened a new front in the west. Allied forces poured onto the beaches, establishing a foothold that the leader's armies could not dislodge. This multi-front war, the very scenario military strategists had dreaded, was now a reality. The nation's industrial capacity, already strained, was now overwhelmed by round-the-clock bombing campaigns that crippled production and demoralized the civilian population. The grip on occupied territories began to slip as resistance movements, emboldened by the changing fortunes of the war, intensified their activities. Inside the capital, the reality of the situation was becoming undeniable, even within the leader's inner circle. The pressure from advancing armies on all sides created an atmosphere of panic and desperation. The government, built around the singular authority of one man, began to collapse under the immense strain. Infrastructure was failing, communication lines were cut, and the chain of command, once absolute, was breaking down. The state was disintegrating from the inside out, even as enemy forces closed in on the capital itself. With enemy shells falling on the city, the leader retreated to his underground bunker, a concrete tomb where he would spend his final days. Cut off from the world and facing the complete and utter defeat of his vision, he was surrounded by a few loyal followers. His orders became increasingly erratic, commanding phantom armies that no longer existed and demanding a fight to the last man, even as the city above was being conquered block by block. In these final hours, he made his last decisions not of a commander, but of a man accepting his end. He dictated his final political testament, a document that showed no remorse, only a continued belief in his own failed ideology. With his capital in ruins and his armies defeated, the leader took his own life, unwilling to face the humiliation of capture. His demise symbolized the absolute collapse of his 1,000-year dream. Just days later, the remaining military commanders officially surrendered. Signing of the surrender documents marked the official end of the devastating conflict in that theater of the war. The guns fell silent, and a continent ravaged by years of fighting could finally begin to process the immense cost of the conflict. The end of the war was not a moment of pure celebration for many, but one of somber relief. Cities lay in ruins, millions of lives had been lost, and the world was left to grapple with the consequences of unchecked ambition and hateful ideology. The story of this leader's rise and fall serves as a powerful and enduring lesson. It teaches us about the fragility of peace and the dangers of surrendering critical thought to charismatic but destructive figures. History is not just a collection of dates and events. It is a series of lessons written in the experiences of those who came before us. By studying these moments, we can better understand the present and make more informed choices for the future, ensuring that such catastrophic events are never repeated. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. If you found this exploration of the past valuable, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world.